Hello and welcome to episode 60 of On My Studio Table. Another milestone for my channel. Thank you so much for joining me, and I so appreciate your comments, your likes, your shares, and if you haven't subscribed already, I would love it if you could subscribe. I'm celebrating a few things today. The major one is a really good bit of health news. If you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you may already know about this, but I have been thinking about ways to celebrate this, and I'll explain a bit further in the video how I would like to do it. And I would like to invite you also to join me in this celebration of this good news to do with my long-term health. Keep watching and you can find out what it's all about. The thing that I'm going to share with you also is that I've been making a lot of progress with my stitching on various projects. And as you know, I love stitching and I love working with textiles in particular, but also with other media such as paper. This time I have done some work in my circle project with Lisbeth Degn of Dragenkunst, which is a year-long project. So I'll update you on that. I've also done a lot more stitching on my coverlet of comfort, which I promised you in the last video I would do, and that's been a joy to work on. That's with Catherine Chambers of K3N Cloth Tales. I've also done some eco-printing. I felt well enough to go out and collect some leaves. I also had a nice stash of brown onion skins, and I spent an afternoon doing some eco-printing. So I'll share those results with you also. So all in all, it's been a really, really good week. I'm getting better, which is a big relief because the month of July was mostly not being well at all. So it's really good to be at the other end of this. But I'm sure that spending time in my studio and being creative has helped me at least to feel better in my mind, if not in my body. I hope you enjoy this video. Really appreciate you joining me, and I do hope you can join me in my celebration project. Next to me is one of my mannequins wearing a cardigan that I eco-printed about a month and a half ago, I think, and I did share about it in a previous video. But also on my mannequin is a beautiful piece of eco-printed wool fabric. It's a very long strip. It's about 220 centimetres long, or 2.2 metres. And it would make a great scarf. And I'll show you this in more detail further on in the video. But I just wanted to show you how it works as a scarf. It's actually quite long, and it's been wrapped around twice and then looped through, and it's still pretty much down to the hem of the cardigan, so hip level. You could wrap it 3 or 4 times, I'm sure, because it's that long. But it's also possible to use it as a fabric. It would make a great scroll, for example, if you added stitching to it and so on, maybe some found objects. So all this scarf or piece of fabric and all the other fabrics that I've eco-printed will be available for sale as soon as this video is over. So I've scheduled them to go live then. So if you're interested in a piece of fabric, they do go quickly. So I encourage you to hop on to my website at gonerustic.com as soon as I say goodbye. It won't work to fast forward because I know how long this video will be, and that's when it will be scheduled to have these items for sale. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for your company. These are the things that I got out to do some natural dyeing, which I hope I will be able to do this afternoon. I've got a mixture of sari ribbon. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to do some sari ribbon edging on my Secret Garden art quilt, which I shared in my last video. I also have a silk scarf here in a soft grey, some strips of wool blanket, vintage wool blanket, some lovely silk lace that I bought from the Thread Studio in Western Australia, and some silk organza, I think it is, which I will also hopefully dye this afternoon. I'm just going to use onion skins, and I'm not going to actually eco-print, I'm just going to do some dyeing. Maybe the scarf I'll eco-print, but the rest I'm just going to dye them. And then I can use them as background colour, whatever colour they become after I've done the dye. I'm going to use some copper pipe as well, and some rusty cans possibly, if I do roll any of them up with the onion skins. So we'll just see what happens. I'm just keeping things simple while I'm still not 100%, and I'll be interested to see what the results are, and hopefully you will be too. It's really amazing how the colours and the prints come out once you iron your eco prints. Of course, they've been washed as well. I just wash them in the washing machine on a cycle that's designed for wool, even if I'm doing silk, because it's gentle enough but also thorough enough. So I've done 2 pieces of wool here, also a couple of other smaller pieces which I'll show you in a moment. I've also done, which is underneath, a beautiful piece of silk organza. It's really hard to show that because it's semi-transparent, but I'll do my best. So the little bundle that I was talking about is this one. It's a lovely piece of wool. It's just a small piece, and you can see the eucalyptus leaves have eco printed on that. And I used copper pipe or rusty cans in these bundles, so the results vary a little bit. Also, because some fabrics were inside other fabrics, they would have printed a little bit differently. But I really like how this is printed, and it's got a hint of the string lines there. When I turn it over, you can see them very strongly, and a different print on the back. I also did a piece of vintage silk, and this was inside a bundle, so it's actually not a really bright piece, but I love the subtle colour in it. And you can just see shadows of leaves and some of the lines from the string lines. As usual, all my pieces are reversible. This is this vintage silk that I've done quite a bit of, and I don't have much left. And it has, in the weave, it has flowers and leaves and horses and so on. So this is a lovely piece of silk. And then I just threw this piece into the pan just to dye as it was. It was a bit of an offcut off one of the other pieces. And it's a beautiful colour. This is a combination of onion skins and eucalyptus, plus a bit of the iron from the rusty cans. So that will be an inspiration bundle. It'll have those 3 bits of fabric in it. And I might also throw in a bundle of sari ribbon. The sari ribbon was tied around the bundles in the pot, so they dyed as well. I used them instead of string or t-shirt yarn, and so that makes a nice little pack to inspire you to make some new work, or to add some to some work you've already started. Now these 2 pieces are strips of wool. They're quite long. This one has some beautiful colours in it, and I've mentioned before that all of these are from our own property, and I just love the colours that we get in them. I may need to put the light on actually. It's got a bit dark outside. The sun was shining earlier, so I'll just do that. Yes, so now you can see the colours a lot better. And sometimes, depending on the season, the orange is really, really bright. And I found that this particular batch it was. I think that the onion skin probably also helped with that, the brown onion skins. So I'm just rolling it out so you can see the whole thing. And you may remember that I use these to roll my fabrics on once they're ironed so they don't crease. Great for taking to markets and so on as well. So if I turn this over, you'll see that it's just as interesting on the back. And sometimes, as I've said before, it's hard to decide which side you want to use. Some of these leaf prints are not distinct, but I quite like the texture that it gives. And when you run your hand over it, you can also feel where the stems have embossed into the wool, and that doesn't wash out. I also put one of my business cards, which I also use as labels, on everything that I sell. And I do a bit of a description as well as the measurements and the price. And the description usually says what I've printed it with, what kind of fabric it is, and how to wash it. And that way you'll know how to look after it. So that's one piece. That one is quite long, but this one is even longer. So you've got these beautiful string lines here from the sari ribbon that was wrapped around it. And then it gradually gets lighter the further it gets into the bundle. And I had this folded in half lengthwise. So this is the part that was wrapped around a rusty can or a couple of rusty cans. And it's just made a beautiful background to this. So this is in the center of this long strip. And it's actually great to wear as a scarf. I've often done these long strips and put them out on a mannequin, and they look amazing. And you can see the dark edges here also from where it's had contact with the pot liquid. And then if I turn it over, you'll see it looks different again. And there's a lot of interest in this piece. It's just really lovely. It's vintage wool blanket, and it has a beautiful soft edge where I've torn it. And as you can see, it's not fraying. It might fray a little bit, but that actually adds to the quality of this, I think. So this is the other side of where we saw the string lines before, and you can see the leaves that have printed there too. Now we come to the organza, and this is quite big. Pardon me. It's 49 centimetres wide and 1.35 metres long. You could do a lot with this. This will also be for sale. And I had this folded in half lengthwise as well. So we've got this beautiful pattern in the centre of the piece. And as you can see some of the patterns through the fabric. And then when I turn it over, that's what it looks like on the other side. Just a beautiful, beautiful piece of fabric. Very tempting to keep this. But I might see if I can get some more, because it's just beautiful fabric to work with, and it takes the eco printing so well. Of course, sometimes you have disappointments also. This is some of the other fabric that I had in the bundles. So those were the sari strips, the sari silk, I mean. Then I had some beautiful lace, which I thought was silk, and this still does feel like silk. But they really hardly took any colour at all. And I don't really understand why. So what I might do is I might do them again with an iron dip and maybe put them around some rusty cans and see if I can get them to do a bit more, because they are gorgeous. They have embroidery on them and some very glittery pieces. They look a bit like tiny sequins, and some are metal and some are transparent, so I presume they might be plastic or acrylic. So just beautiful lace, and even as they are, you know, they would work really well in a piece of textile art, but I think I'm going to give them another go. This scarf also was a pale blue or a pale greyish blue, and this didn't do much either. So I may give this the same treatment and just, you know, do an iron dip and then put it around rusty cans and see if I can get a better result. So that's my eco dyeing and printing from last week. I was well enough to actually do some, which was lovely. And thank you so much for your good wishes. I am getting better. My voice is still not back to normal, but it is almost there. And my energy levels still need to build up. They're not what they usually are. So I've been doing a lot of stitching and sitting in my studio watching videos of people like Catherine Chambers and Jerry Bellini and Marion's World and a few others, and it's just been a lovely way to recover. Before I show you the progress on my coverlet of comfort, I thought I'd update you on my piece, which I was calling Secret Garden. One of my followers put a comment under my last video saying that she thought that the phrase secret garden might have been a bit overused. And when I thought about it, I think she could be right. So thank you for raising that and bringing my attention to that. I did have another name that I had written down, which I wasn't using. So I revisited that, and I've now given it its new name. It's actually part of a song from one of my favourite musicians from the 1970s, who has only not long passed away. He was still performing when he was in his 90s. If you know who I'm talking about, maybe you'd like to put that in the comments. But the song started with "If You Could Read My Mind." And I thought there are so many layers of meaning in this, with the text from the thank you card from Gretchen, the fabric from Anne, and the yarn that I used here, the bits and pieces that I purchased from the Thread Studio in WA, and hidden inside is also the vintage linen that Gretchen sent. I just thought, really, sometimes to see the artist's thought processes isn't easy. And we're not really great mind readers. Sometimes we can sort of sense things. But I just thought, you know, as an artist, sometimes my work is very symbolic. So this title, "If You Could Read My Mind," I thought was quite appropriate. So that is now the title of this piece. It's for an exhibition challenge called Hidden Stories, as I mentioned last time, and I think that it will still fit in with the theme. The song goes, "If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell." And I think that's true of most of us, actually. So I ended up putting a faced edge on it. I was thinking of putting sari silk around the edge, but I decided against it. And it had to be a certain size, which is A3. From memory, that's 29.7 centimetres wide by 42 centimetres long. These extra pieces at the bottom, I'll just move this, make it the right length. So this edge is not the right length, but this is. So it's the full piece. But it was still a bit too narrow, so I ended up putting these on the side. They were leftovers from when I did the facing, and that was the actual shape that they were. So I think that finishes it off nicely. When I turn it over, you'll see the faced edge, and I used some of my rust printed indigo dyed cloth for that. And this is the back of the little triangles. And I fused some naturally dyed fabric on the back just to make them a little bit more rigid, and then used a piece of aqua ribbon, hand-stitched, to cover that raw edge. The last things I did were the rod pocket at the top. So I have a piece of rod here, which I'm going to ask my husband to cut for me, and that slides in this little rod pocket, just this far. And then it will have little screw eyes, one on each end, with some fishing line. And that way it's hidden, so I don't let them stick out beyond the sides. I like to have it hidden behind here. So the rod pocket is about 1 centimetre and a bit in from the edge. And the little screw eyes will just be hidden also. And then I've done my label as well with the new title, "If You Could Read My Mind," who it was designed and made by, where I live, when it was completed, and a little bit about the materials. I didn't put too much detail on it because of the title, "If You Could Read My Mind." I thought that will hint enough at what might be behind it. So I'm really pleased with this. I like the way I've been able to combine my own naturally dyed fabrics with other fabrics, including eco-printing that was given to me and fabrics that I purchased which were hand dyed but not by me. Some digital prints with my inkjet printer, and then everything hand stitched. It will have to be mailed off probably in the next day or two, so I won't be enjoying it for long, but the process was just lovely. As you know, I'm really enjoying making the coverlet of comfort and following the prompts that Catherine Chambers gives us on her channel, K3N Cloth Tales. This is a year-long project and we do a different section each month. So this is the central section. Then there's a piece here and another one on the other side, which you can't see at the moment. The stars here and my bird blocks there. The next piece, you have seen some of this in previous videos, and I've done a lot more stitching. I did mention last time that I was planning to do a lot more stitching, and I have. So I'll open it out. This is sideways. It actually is perpendicular, but it won't fit in the camera frame if I do that. And the next prompt, after doing the 9 patches or the hexagons, and I chose 9 patches, was to do some blanket stitch. The demonstration blanket stitch had an effect like a honeycomb, but I chose to do something a bit more freeform. So you'll see a little bit of honeycomb in some of the stitches, and but only randomly. And I used a lovely variegated navy and burgundy with a hint of pink embroidery floss, 3 strands of that, to do all of the blanket stitch on all of these particular blocks. So I've only done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 have the blanket stitch, and then the other small ones, the small squares that were tumbling down, I've done a different way. So here I've used some feather stitch with a variegated pale lemon and pink, and a green which is very subtly variegated, which I think is a silk. So that's 3 strands of an embroidery floss, and that's a silk thread. So I'm really happy with how that's looking. I've done more stitching also for the couching that I showed last time, and the couching is naturally dyed t-shirt yarn, quite dark because I've used it a number of times to wrap my bundles. The background is a rusted tea-dyed piece, rust printed. You can just see some vague shapes from the rusting. So I'm really happy with this. The next stage, I've just watched the latest video from Catherine. The next stage is to add some words and some seed stitch. So that will be the last bit for July, and then it will be time to join it onto the main part of the coverlet. So I have some ideas about how I'm going to do that, and I'll show you that in the next video. Another year-long project I'm involved with is the Stitched Circle Challenge with Lisbeth Degn of Dragenkunst. And this is also a very enjoyable project, and we're just doing a different activity each week. So I'll just open it and show you where I've got to. I've actually done some work in advance as well because I was a little bit behind. So these are the next 2 circles in this project. This one involved a grid, and it didn't have to be a regular grid, with French knots, and you needed to use a certain number of colours. I think I used 4 different greens, one of which is variegated, I think. The outside one here is wool, and some of these French knots are wool, and the rest I think are embroidery floss. And I used the same threads on this one. This time we did the coral stitch, and I had never done that before, so it was really enjoyable to learn that and to use that to make this circle. We were asked to do a circle, of course, and then curvy lines. So I did just free-drawn curvy lines with a pencil and then followed them with the coral stitch. It took me a little bit to get my head around it because you have to put your needle under and then over the thread when you do it. And I'll leave a link to Lisbeth's demonstration of this. And it took me a little while to get used to it and to remember the order of how I had to do it. But I got it in the end, and I'm really happy with that. I had run out of these backgrounds of old dictionary pages and tea-bag paper and so on. So I made some more, and I actually did all the weeks up to week 52. And then I made a mistake with one, so week 49 is there. So these are all ready for the rest of the year. I didn't do that with all of these because these are more time consuming, but I did prepare them. I did all the machine stitching, and that way when I put it in, it looks as though it's been machine stitched to the page, but it's actually not. I used double-sided tape for that. You can see on the back where the stitching is. So this dictionary that I'm using was a falling apart dictionary from the 1800s, quite an old dictionary, so 200 years old really. Yes, so it's really fun to do. We've got less than a year left, half a year left now, and I have, I think, 1 or 2 extra pages in this little journal that I've made. Well, not so little really. And yes, I look forward to see what Lisbeth comes up with next time. It's such a great project to be a part of. And even if you haven't been a part of it, you can have a look at it. There is a Facebook group as well, and it means that you can share what you do in particular photo albums. But Lisbeth does ask that you don't join unless you intend to participate. And they'll be there, the prompts and the YouTube videos will be there perpetually. So, you know, it doesn't matter if you don't finish by the end of the year. It's just a really lovely project to be part of. And some of the stitches and some of the designs are great inspiration for future projects. When I was having my cancer treatment 5 years ago, I actually wore red nearly every day that I went in for treatment. And I didn't really know why, but I just felt to wear red. It was a red scarf or red shoes or a red necklace, sometimes another garment that had red in it. But that was what I wore nearly every time I went in to have treatment. And I was thinking about it later on and wondering why I particularly wanted to wear red. And it just came to me that red is for courage, or it was for me in this situation. I know red can have lots of other meanings too, but for me it was red for courage. And now that I've come through it, I would like to celebrate because I've had the last scan and the last radiology appointment and the last oncology appointment, and I don't have to go back again. And that's something to celebrate. So I thought I might ask you if you would like to celebrate with me. I have some red thread here, different shades of red thread. So this is a wool. This is a variegated thread. This one is probably almost a burgundy colour, but it's still red. And then this is one of my favourite Jenny Thompson flower threads in another red. And I thought maybe if you would like to participate, you could send me a 4-inch square with some slow stitching on it using red thread. So I've got a few of my scraps out. These are scraps that are left over mainly from my coverlet, but a few other bits and pieces as well. Some naturally dyed, some other fabrics. And I've got some examples of white or cream backgrounds. So I'm asking for a white or cream background. It doesn't have to be anything special. I've just got 3 types of cloth here to show you. This one is just a bit of old sheet. This is some linen that I had. I don't even know where I got it from. And this is some, I think, cotton that I found in a charity shop. And it's actually a bit bigger than 4 inches because of this frayed edge, but I think I might keep that because I quite like that effect. So just a raw edge square, 1 or more, depends however many you feel like you would like to do. And then just arrange a few scraps on it. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. So I'll just do that now just to give you an idea. Let's say I'm going to use this cotton square here. Just a few pieces. And maybe even layering them like this. I also have a little bit of lace here that was left over, so I could even, you know, cut out a rose from there. I have a little bit of this left over too, so I could cut a piece of that. And sometimes I like to pleat things as well, so I'll just find a suitable piece. So this is a little bit of cotton gauze, which is like a cheesecloth. I sometimes quite like to gather them up like that and make a kind of a 3D effect on it. You could use lace as well. This is a piece of lace that I've naturally dyed that I cut off the edge of, I don't know, a pillowcase or something. And just a simple arrangement, and then stitch it with red thread. It can be any red thread, and you can use more than one. I might, for example, use all of these threads on this, or I might only use one. It's totally up to you. So that's all I'm asking. Just use your scraps, some recycled fabric for the background in white or cream, any scraps that you like, arranged on top, and then stitched with your choice of red thread or red threads. And I will put my postal address in the description. And if you would like to join in with this, please send me 1 or more squares like this. I will do a little outline as well in the description, just in case you need reminding. But I just thought it would be a great way to celebrate. And what I will do with all the squares, depending how many come, I was thinking of making a scroll. And this will be put on display at the very first exhibition that we have in our art shed when it's done. If you've been following my videos, you know that we've been working towards building an art shed which will have a combined gallery and studio space. So if you contribute to this, it will go into a scroll, which could be really, really long, depending how many people send these in. And this will be a celebration scroll, Bread for Courage. If you could also please just stitch your initials in the bottom right-hand corner. And if you want to put a note with it, that's totally up to you. But I would love to do a community project with you to celebrate this milestone. It's just such good news. It's really made my week, even though I've not been well still. It's just been a really great milestone. So if you would like to help me celebrate, that would be wonderful. Just to close, I would like to wish you all a happy World Embroidery Day. This is an initiative by Sarah Homfrey Embroidery from the UK. And for the last few years, she has asked stitchers from around the world to contribute a 2-minute video showing what they've been doing relating to embroidery. So this year I thought I might enter, thanks to a friend who alerted me to this opportunity. And I've done my 2-minute video and I submitted it, and it is now up ready to watch. There are 24 countries involved, which is quite amazing, and lots of different stitchers from all those countries, different ages, different abilities, different levels of experience and expertise. I think I've binge watched every episode since it started in, I think, 2021. So I do recommend that you go and have a look. Very, very proud to be a part of this celebration, and I'll put a link in the description so you can go and have a look. I featured my triptych, which is hanging behind me now, and just explained a little bit about the story and about the stitches that I used. It's amazing what you can fit in for 2 minutes. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, happy stitching.